and that's our bad collectively. So, boo, keep it brief. I'm already scared to stand here because if a fire breaks out, I know I can't get out. The hell with Derek, I'm going through the So I commend Carrie for including a segment that has us dreaming a little bit. I commend Ben and the staff for putting together a great morning and some great organization. To my surprise, you can fit 50 people in this meeting. So, but very briefly, my vision is right out the window. Green as hell. And along with that, water bills that aren't double the size of our residents, our neighbor residents. Zoning integrity is really, really important. I appreciate what Jeff said. And I think we do have to stop going down past it, leave us feeling obligated, and leaving others feel like they at least have some leverage over the city, whether they really do or not. Open space is very important, and so is our budget. I appreciate my colleagues who want to get a little more organization and structure and move on with something that has a little more sense of formality. I'd love to hear an update on how we've done on last year's priorities. I wasn't at the meeting. Yeah, looking forward to that. So, but yeah, most of my dream I can see right out the window, green and beautiful, and this city looks more marvelous than I've seen it in 8 years. It's wonderful. So let's hope we got a way to do that so we're not always counting on God's will and rainy skies, and we can get it done with core basic services delivered by the city. So thanks again, and let's roll. I'm in favor of the motion at some level. I mean, I'd like to move on to a little bit of a structure and get the staff a little involved.
So what I'm hearing is that none of the council has any interest in sharing concrete ideas with the public.
I think we've had a vote of 3 council members that we want to turn the mic over to them.
Sir, if I may make a suggestion, I think, is it on? Okay, if I may make a suggestion, I think we all have concrete objectives. I think the reason, and it's my own way of thinking, which is, as everyone knows, always wrong, probably. But maybe if we had city manager go into his presentation on item 2, and then from that, once we have that foundation, then we can go into our goals and priorities or visioning that would naturally flow from that. So to me, that report, and then I do have some concrete ideas, but part of it really depends on where we are now in order to go forward. So, and maybe that's what the rest of the council suggested as well. I don't know. So I would amend the motion that we go maybe to number 2 and then come back to the concrete idea.
And Carrie, I think part of it is everything costs money. We all have a vision of things that would be wonderful that that maybe a city here has, and it would be great to have, and so forth. But I think everybody is still pretty caught up in some of the things that are unresolved, that feel like they're holding the city back. And so what I'm sensing is a little bit of anxiousness to get into some of that stuff a little bit. I don't, from my perspective, it's not a dismissal of your idea, which is to think big and have a little bit more of a dreamer's tone about this. But I don't think there's the collective will to do that right now, because some of the more practical problems feel like they're holding the city back some, that's all.
And I guess there's, and part of this comes from the Brown Act, where we're having to litigate this here, where we can't present our concept of how we'd like this done. I'm sorry if I misunderstood. I was the one who did set up this meeting to begin with and call for it, and have done that from the time. And if you want to change the order at this point, I'm okay with that. But I honestly think that if the city doesn't listen to some new ideas.
Call for the question. Do we have the vote?
if the city doesn't listen to some new ideas, I will do that.
Well, we have a motion on the floor and a second, and so now we need to vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, can we restate, will the clerk please restate the motion?
The motion was to have the city manager and CEO continue the facilitating the street.
All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Opposed?
Motion carries.
Motion carries. No, it's not that I don't want someone to be in charge, it's that this portion is the portion that he and I agreed to. So, if that's, that's the difference.
Ben, can I make a quick suggestion? So it might be helpful too, since there's, since there's since some folks, I had 9 to 2 on my calendar, some other folks might have set aside a longer block a day, but I don't know anything about the Brown Act or anything else that would prevent anybody who wants to stay on after lunch and take a little more informal tone with the meeting and talk a little bit about some visionary things. I don't see any, I don't think this is, apparently is not. I don't see anything wrong with that. So maybe with that as a backup, carrying something to look forward to later, we can all take a breath and move on.
Good morning, thank you council, thank you community. My name is Ben Siegel, I'm your city manager here. Well, Ms. Jekyll boots up our projector. I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate the opportunity to serve this community. I'm coming up on 1 year, and what you're going to see is this council and the previous council have accomplished a great deal, and it's a real honor and privilege to serve. You have a wonderful staff team. Just as a quick background, the city of San Juan Capistrano, like basically all cities in Orange County, operate under the council manager form of government, where the council serves as the policy-making body, essentially the board of directors you would see in the private sector. I function as a CEO. I take direction, policy direction from the city council. I make recommendations to the city council, and then I carry out their direction. The council, the ones elected by you, are the ones that make the actual decisions. Okay, so let's get right into it. Oh, I click my own slides around here. I'm going to cover a few things. I'm going to try to get through this relatively quickly because the most important aspect and component of this morning's meeting is to really hear from the council members on their priorities going forward. So I do think it's important to provide some context in terms of the priorities and key projects that the staff has been working on over the past year. I certainly want to give you an overview of the current city budget and our city's fiscal outlook, because obviously that is going to impact and influence the decisions you make. I want to share my perspective on challenges and opportunities in this community, and then I also want to provide some brief recommendations going forward for the council's consideration. Current priorities and projects. Why are priorities important in the city? Because just like you, just like your own families, we have limited resources. We have limited staff. We have about 80 full-time staff in the city, which is a pretty lean organization. We're an older community. Some cities, some newer communities have more of a contract model where they contract out services. Some cities like Santa Ana would have a full service model where they provide their own police and fire. We have a little bit of a hybrid. We have our own water utility here. We have city landscape crews, but for the most part, we contract out a lot of services. We also have limited financial resources, so it's very important that the council establish a work plan that we can accomplish over the year. That was the goal when we met last year, and if anyone went to the strategic planning workshop last year at the community center, you may recognize this. I'm going to click through a few of these to give you an update on where we are. But just for background, for those of you that weren't here last year, what we put together for the council's discussion was a list of some of the key projects in town and some of the key programs that we were working on. We organized it. You can't really pick up the color here, but this was red. And the idea was those were our key priorities and our primary resource allocation. So that's what staff would focus on over the next year. We also outlined efforts that were underway. These are included in the work plan, but if there's a resource challenge, we're going to focus on these issues up here. We also had a list of non-program things that have come up in the past. They aren't in the plan, they aren't funded, and we said, look, we're going to get to those as we can. Certainly not dedicate the same amount of staff and money that we are to these issues. And then we had new ideas and emerging issues that we think and we expected. Yes, Councilman Patterson.
Sorry to interrupt,
Yeah.
but
You don't happen to have those priorities in bigger fonts so we can actually...
I'm going to go through them. That's the
Okay.
idea. Good point. So I'm going to go through it. This was just a visual to kind of cue your memory if you were here last year. But that's a very good point. I know you can't read it, and that drives me crazy when there are slides that are illegible. So what we asked last year was the council to look at these, and we kind of put dots, what you think is important. If staff, we were missing anything, if you think there's anything that should elevate up to a top priority or anything that should move down. We got great feedback from the council, and that really allowed us to move forward. And all the department heads, the city department heads, with the exception of the city clerk, work for me. So the council's direction gives me the sense of what I want the staff to spend their time on. I'm going to talk through really just those red items, the key priorities. I want to let you know where we are with those. Most of these are major initiatives. They take a lot of time. Are we going to get them complete in 6 months? No. There are a few that are complete. We'll talk briefly about those. Most of these are long-term, but I do think that the council has made significant progress. A couple to start that you can take right off the list. Transition to district elections. That was one of those that was a red key priority. I really need to give credit to Maria and Christy and her staff. They were able to achieve that in 3 months. We had a lawsuit filed by the Southwest Voter Project. The council wisely decided to settle that lawsuit and move forward with district elections. We actually phased that in, so we had 2 council members elected in districts in 2016, and we'll have the remaining 3 who are serving at large currently elected by district in 2018. So we now have 5 districts. The council established that through a public, transparent workshop that involved significant community input. Here's the map. We have more information online. The other thing that I would say you can also take off the list is fill key vacancies and improve morale. It doesn't mean we're not still going to engage in as much as we can to improve morale, but if you go back a year, there were about 25 vacancies in the city, including all the key management positions. Those have now all been filled. We have a very healthy vacancy rate. I don't think we've had anyone leave the organization in about 6 months. And we've done a lot to, and I really credit the executive team here, to improve morale among the rank and file, the people who are out there working on the streets, serving the community. This is just a quick picture. In the past, for the holiday party, I think the city's taken people out to lunch. This year, the executives bought, prepared, and served all the meals. That went over very well. I think the staff appreciated that. So I think the climate around City Hall is great. I do think we are becoming an employer of choice. We see in our recruitments, when we open up a recruitment even for an office assistant position, we have hundreds of applications. So I'm pleased with that. I think you can take that off the list. Okay, I also want to mention the last retreat, the priorities workshop, was in April, so it really has only been 10 months. So it's something that I know the council has worked very hard to move these forward, and I think you're going to see that in the next few minutes. I want to talk about some of the projects that are underway. One is the water utility and sewer utility reorganization. So the council completed a study of our utility services. It's very unusual for a city of this size, with this budget, with this population, to have its own water utility. It has become increasingly problematic, especially with years of sustaining drought. And even though we've had significant rains, basically all California south of San Francisco, Lake Tahoe is still in declared drought. And we will continue to run into issues, legal challenges. We have, 14 or so employees in our water utility to manage what is becoming increasingly challenging with aging infrastructure is something that is taxing the organization, and I think somewhat distracting us from all the other important services the cities provide. The good news is the council directed staff to explore the possibility of reorganizing. What does that mean? Annexing into one of the larger water districts. So, we're a municipal entity as a city. There are also separate municipal entities like Santa Margarita Water District, like Molten Miguel Water District, like South Coast Water District that surround us that are large, and that's exactly what they do. They have their own elected board of directors, They have their own elected board of directors, and they are much better positioned to handle the complexities of the water industry. The council approved that. We've moved that to LAFCO, which is a regional body that looks at the way local governments are organized. If you're going to annex land, if you're going to change the organization of government, they ultimately have to approve that. And we are advancing a study at LAFCO right now. We're sitting down in a room with all these other water districts. There's actually 4 other water districts. It is incredibly complex. They are basically unpacking all of the finances in our water utility, all of our assets, all of our liabilities, and we're looking how that could possibly fit in to one of these other utilities, the utility agencies. The council set out criteria that they're interested in terms of how the LAFCO should evaluate different proposals that we may receive from these other agencies. And that includes no impact on rates, if anything, bringing down customer rates. It includes improving the infrastructure and a whole list of those. We have more information on our website. I'm happy to talk about that, but I do want to move on. Oh, by the way, just in terms of a timeline for the water reorganization, based on recent meetings that we've had at LAFCO with all the other agencies, I expect we will have a recommendation on how to best handle the future of our utility in about 9 to 12 months. Renegotiate the riding part lease. Riding part comes up a lot. I'm not going to talk about code issues. What I am going to talk about is our arrangement with One Facilities Management. That land was purchased with tax-exempt bonds. We do have a private operator under a license agreement that's working for the city. That raises some questions and concerns relative to IRS regulations. So are we out of compliance? No, probably not, but are there things that we need to do to improve the structure of the agreement? Absolutely. We're in the process of working on that. We're working with legal counsel, with bond counsel, with a financial advisor. Other cities have had these similar issues. I think in the next few months, we're going to be able to bring some recommendations to the council that will allow them to basically restructure that agreement that will ensure we're bond compliant. And then also on February 7th, we're going to do something that's a little interesting. I'm going to get just a tad into the weeds here. We're going to recommend to the council on February 7th that you authorize staff to refund those bonds with taxable bonds. Why would we do that? Because if you can change those tax-exempt bonds to taxable bonds, there are no more IRS concerns. Now, the current bonds, we really can't refund until 2019, but we can take advantage of a very favorable interest rate climate right now, refund it, put it in escrow account. Because the interest rates are so low, our goal is to save the property taxers owners some money, reduce their taxes. Certainly, we wouldn't do this if it's going to increase taxes. So it's either going to be a wash and give the council more flexibility on the property, or it's going to lower the assessment on all the properties in town. Northwest Open Space Park. This is something that Mayor Ferguson and a group in the community, including several members of the Hashmi Nation, have been working on. The council moved forward and approved a conceptual design. That's, again, not a great picture here just because of the images. But this is over off Camino Capistrano. So after a long collaborative process, the council approved a concept design. We now have a dual track where we have a design firm on board completing the design and the bid documents, and then separately we have a community group that are lots of the same people who have been involved with this for years, working on the artistic and cultural elements. So at some point those are going to merge. We'll put that out to bid. We'll move forward with construction. But I'm glad to see progress on that. Obviously it pays homage to people that have been in this area for centuries. Improved street maintenance and rehab program. This is probably one of the most significant issues for me. I'm going to talk about it later in the presentation under my recommendations and some of the challenges facing the community. What I can say is that we added about $600,000 in new revenue to our street maintenance program. Bad news, still not enough. I'm still going through, as Councilmember Patterson mentioned, those items in the red list. These are so these are one at a time. Resolve water lawsuits, land use lawsuits. The council's been able to put 3 or 4 lawsuits in the books, reduce what we're spending on litigation. Obviously, for a small city, that can be a real burden. There are plenty of plaintiffs' attorneys out there that make a living going and suing municipalities. Unfortunately, we've experienced that. But we've been able to essentially resolve the lawsuit with the golf club, a lawsuit with a property owner adjacent to the riding park. We stayed a lawsuit at the Bermuda property, so we're not burning city money for attorney's fees on that. So I think we've made progress, have more challenges, and expect to, in the next 6 months, continue down the right path on that. I think everyone's aware of the SDG&E substation. The council has maintained that they are opposed to that project and just recently appropriated about $250,000 to continue to fight it. It is true we have an adverse CPUC decision, a 5-0 CPUC decision, so I will be completely blunt with you. It is going to be an uphill battle to overturn that. We have filed a motion for rehearing, and the money that the council's appropriated would give the city sufficient funds to take that all the way to the state Supreme Court if that's what the council decides to do. We're going to be checking in incrementally along the way once we hear whether the PUC will entertain our application for a rehearing. We know that's a major impact to that community. It's unfortunate. We think that the administrative law judge and the environmental documents were right when they said first this should be in Laguna Niguel, and they came back and you say you don't need a project at all. That's not the way it went. In the grand scheme of things in the state of California going up against SDG&E and the PUC, we are the little guy. Encourage quality commercial development opportunities. We're going to talk about this a little later in the presentation, but this is something that we brought up and the council considered at the last retreat because we know you're in a very financially constrained environment, and you have, one of the opportunities that you have is you have several quality commercial developers. We know the hotels, we know some others that want to come here and build projects. Of course, we want to make sure they're compatible with the neighborhoods, they're acceptable to the community, but there is a balance between that historical preservation, community preservation, and ensuring that the city has the funding it needs to operate and provide services to its residents. The council has initiated studies for a couple of general plan amendments, one at Vermeulen, the other, one of the speakers mentioned on off Los Rios, called the River Street Project. Nothing has been approved, just an initiation of a code amendment study. That will come back to the council. That will be a public process. What the council has also done is move forward with the sales of the RDA parcels. I call them the redevelopment parcels, the one downtown, the one at Lower Roseanne, where you'll have some type of commercial development, most likely, and or a mix of development. And then also the council approved an exclusive negotiating agreement with the developer for the current Mission Grill property that is looking at a larger expanded retail and office space with potentially a parking deck that goes out and uses the existing grade over the multimodal lot. So that would add parking. We recognize one of the other issues I'm going to bring up later is the lack of parking and the challenges that we're having because we are a destination city and people want to be here. Expand recycled water to Riding Park, something Mr. Sparrows brought up. It actually is an important project. I won't get into too many details, but because of a lawsuit, we have to find an alternative water source to the Riding Park. Okay, so we can continue to provide potable water, or we can provide recycled water. We do think we're going to have, the drought is not an anomaly. We're going to get continuous drought cycles. We have the ability to purchase recycled water from some of our neighboring agencies. We still have to deliver potable water because there still has to be fire flow there. In the future, we don't know. Maybe there will be buildings, maybe there will be a need for potable water. We have an environmental document right now, and we are in design for our water distribution system to the Riding Park. We included in the design sewer. We wanted to design the sewer, so if the council does have the funding and in the future wants to make that decision to appropriate the funding for that, you would have sewer. What is sewer going to do? Well, the council is undergoing a study right now to figure out what the future of the Riding Park will be. And right now there are no permanent restrooms. Maybe there will be permanent restrooms in the future, depending on what future use. So it really just gives the council a little more flexibility. Again, we aren't constructing it yet. No decisions have been made, but we did include it in the design documents. Okay, process of hotel projects. This is exactly how it was listed. I'm going to be very careful how I speak about these two because we know there's active litigation. But the council directed staff as a priority to process of hotel projects. From my perspective, the entitlements on the hotel projects are complete. We're really happy about that. We all want to see those projects move forward. We'll talk a little bit later when we get to the budget of why that's important. Not just to add some wonderful color and amenities to the downtown, give people a nice place to stay, but also for the city's fiscal health. So we now have two projects that went through the Cultural Heritage Commission, went through the Planning Commission. One was approved on appeal at the City Council. There was just a press release issued that it plans to open in 2018. That's the Kimpton project right across from El Adobe. And the other project is next to the Mission. You already see that a lot of the grading has already been completed there. There's an approved development agreement on that site. So the developer could move forward essentially on that project anytime. We are in conversations with that developer. Obviously, we want to see that move forward. We're going to encourage and try to work with the developer to make sure that that project comes to fruition. City-owned parcels downtown Lower Roseanne. In about 2012, the state of California dissolved redevelopment agencies. So previous to 2012, the city had a redevelopment agency. That redevelopment agency owned land. It owned land on Lower Roseanne, it owned land in the downtown. With that, when the state dissolved redevelopment, they said, hey, you now have to essentially sell that property. Fortunately, and thanks to Ken Allman, our finance director, some of the land that was being used for public purposes, like the parking lots, we didn't have to sell. Not the Playhouse parking lot. We were able to keep the parking lot right off El Camino Real. But the state said, nope, you got to sell the downtown parcel, you got to sell the Lower Roseanne parcel. We went through a competitive process. We hired CB Richard Ellis. We have proposals, I think 13 on Lower Roseanne and 10 on the downtown. They run the gamut. One of the speakers mentioned a public process. The council has agreed that's very important. At this point, it would be a little premature because we're still in the process of vetting those proposals, making sure those developers are viable and what they're proposing is consistent with our codes. If not, we want to be sure to tell the council what type of approvals they would need. Council had its first conversation about those in closed session. This is real property. They're allowed to talk about that behind closed doors. No decisions were made. Staff and CBRE is working to further evaluate and bring back some initial recommendations for the council to consider in February. But I do expect and would recommend that there will be significant outreach once we get a little further down the facts on that. Negotiate landfill host city cooperative agreement. This is the city of San Juan Capistrano has one of 3 landfills in Orange County. The other is in Brea and Irvine. Because of that, we have impacts. We have trash trucks driving on our roads, air quality impacts. Obviously, if you're going to design a city, you wouldn't necessarily want a landfill there. We want to be sure we're compensated to mitigate for the impacts of that landfill. My position was that, and the staff's position, and the council agreed that the city wasn't getting its due share compared to Brea and Irvine in terms of the tonnage fee that is paid to the city every time a trash truck, either from out of the county or in the county, goes and dumps their waste there. We were able to renegotiate that and get a significant amount more. That added, right off the bat, $600,000 a year in revenue to the city. Council put that towards street maintenance program. We are still working with the county for further money, and I think in the next 6 months, we're going to hopefully have some proposals for the council to consider that would provide some one-time payment to the city for further mitigation. Pacific San Juan residential development. This is one of the developments. This is southeast of the 5 and San Juan Creek Road. This is one of the communities that fell victim to the recession. There are, I think, 415, Joel? 415, okay, so 415 single-family homes. They have all now been fully entitled, so they've gone through all the process. Now it's just a matter of them pulling permits and going through plan check. Is that fairly accurate? So we got through that. It's adding a beautiful new community in town. I hear some drums. A couple of other efforts underway. The council had outlined that they want